Dear Tony, happy birthday to you. Whole new city over here. Cruises. And all this part of the river here in front of us, folks, all this is called the River Square. Now this is where you'll find most of the bars and restaurants here along the Riverwalk. So if you folks have ever wondered, does anybody actually fall into the river? Yes, they do, folks, fall into the river. We average about 60 people every year that fall in. And here too, right above folks, this is Casa Rio Mexican restaurant. Now this is the very first restaurant on the Riverwalk, folks. They opened back in 1946. They were the first ones to offer riverside dining and also dining on the boat. Right here in front of the boat, folks, you'll see two hotels here. Now these are both Marriott hotels. The one to the left is the River Center Marriott, and the one to the right is the River Walk Marriott. Now listen to this story, folks. When they first bought the land to build this Riverwalk Marriott, There was already a hotel right there on the site. It was called the Fairmont Hotel, and that was on our National Historic Registry. So it was a little historic 3-story hotel. So the builders of this Marriott, they couldn't just destroy that little hotel and put the Marriott up. They actually had to figure out how they were going to move that hotel. So what they did, folks, was they put it on 36 giant dollies. Each one of them had 8 wheels, and they moved the whole building 5 blocks down the road to Alamo and the River. It took them 5 days to move that building 5 blocks. They actually traveled at 0.4 miles an hour down the road here, folks. Now that's in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the largest building ever moved down city streets. That little 3-story hotel weighed 3 million pounds. And here to the right of the boat, folks, if you look over the wall there, you'll see a tower. Now that is the Tower of the Americas. Now this was the centerpiece for the 1968 World's Fair. And that tower is 750 feet high. It has a revolving restaurant and an observation deck. And that restaurant makes 1 full rotation every hour like clockwork, so you can't actually see it moving. Those are like freshly born babies. I mean, they're still yellow babies. Now on this part of the river, right here in front of us, folks, here, now this is one of the newest additions to the Riverwalk. This is the River Center Mall area. And this was completed back in 1988. And here at the River Center Mall, folks, there are 125 shops, restaurants, and small boutiques here. There's actually over 1 million square feet of shopping space here, folks. If you look on the right-hand side here, you're going to see an 8-foot statue there. Now this is going to be a statue of St. Anthony or San Antonio de Padua. And this statue was a gift for the 1968 World's Fair from the Portuguese. And coming up here to the right, you see a church steeple. Now this is the steeple for St. Joseph's German Catholic Church. And this church was built in 1868 by our German-speaking immigrants here. Now back in the 1800s, folks, you'd hear German here just as much as you'd hear English or Spanish. And this part of the river, right here in front of the boat, folks, this is the Arneson River Theater. And the seating here is to the left, and the stage is to the right. It's an amphitheater divided by the river. And folks, we can see 800 people here in the Arneson. We call that intimate seating. Because with 800 people up there, you will get to know your neighbors. And if this part of the river looks familiar, folks, if you've ever seen a movie called Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock, this is where they filmed the swimsuit competition. Now this used to be the original San Antonio Public Library from 1930 until 1968. In 1968, it was renovated and turned into the Hertzberg Circus Museum. In 2013, it was renovated again and turned into the Briscoe Western Art Museum. Coming up right here to the right of the boat, folks, this is the Marriage Island here. Now, we have about 300 marriages performed right here on this island every year. Now, this is where Father Damien Massenet held the very first Catholic Mass here along the river back in 1691. So this is actually considered a holy site and an extra blessing in the marriage to get married right here. So people come from all over Texas to get married right here on this little island. My favorite building on the Riverwalk. Now, this is the Tower Life building. Now, this building is 400 feet tall. It was built back in 1929 and called the Smith and Young Tower. And Mr. Smith and Mr. Young were really superstitious, so they put those gargoyles all the way around the top. There's actually 16 gargoyles that circle the top of the building. And if you look right above the second row windows there, folks, you see those faces there? See how there's 2 pillars and 2 faces and 2 pillars and 2 faces? Yeah. Now those are called grotesques. They put those there to help ward away evil spirits and make sure they make good business investments. But did you catch it, folks? Good business investments. They built this building in 1929. So when the stock market crashed, they lost everything. It cost them $3 million to complete this building, and then they had to sell it for $300,000. A whole front end of this building like the bottom of a ship. They even angled it a little bit so it looks like it's coming down the river. Well, this part was dredged out for flood control between 1921 and 1941. Because we had a flood here, folks, back in 1921, before this section of the river was added in, and the water here in the downtown area alone, folks, was 10 feet above the street level. Let me just give you a quick visual. Like I said, we had that flood here, the water was 10 feet above the street level. So just to give you a quick visual, folks, if you look here to the left of the boat, you can see this white brick building coming up here. Now, this is the Jewelry Inn Hotel right now. But back in 1921, when we actually had that flood, this was our CPS office, City Public Service. This is where you come pay your water bill. And there was a picture in the San Antonio paper, ironically, the CPS office floods. The water was just below the chandeliers in there. So that's what 10 feet above the street level looks like, just below the chandeliers in there. And if you look here to the right of the boat, folks, you're going to see a giant cypress tree there. Now, this cypress tree actually has a name. We call this the Ben Milam cypress tree. The reason for that, folks, is one of our Texas patriots here, his name was Ben Milam. He was actually killed by a sniper from this tree right here. Now, during the battle for the Alamo, folks, Santa Ana would post snipers in this tree, and they would shoot up and down river, and all the Texans that came by to get water for their horses. Now, I'm going to back up right here, folks. If you look in the doorway here to the left, there's going to be a mosaic there inside the doorway that shows you what the river looked like back then. And in that picture, you're going to see a sniper in a tree, and that's this tree here to the left. And there's also going to be a bend in the river, and that's this bend to the left. It makes this natural left-hand turn, and all this to the right, that's what was dredged out for flood control. So that mosaic you see in the doorway there, that's the natural state of the San Antonio River where we are right now. We're actually going around that bend in the river right now. You look at this group right here.